Oh,
Josh. I want to tell you a story, Josh.
Yeah, tell me a story.
So I was just talking to my friend Jono, who's
Jono.
Yeah, friend Jono. I don't. He came to visit once, but it was before your time.
Okay.
And I asked Jono over the course of our normal conversation, which involves his dissatisfaction with his series of Silicon Valley programming jobs. I asked him, "Hey, have you seen this truck video thing that my friend Josh and I are doing?" And he said to me, "Yeah, I started one. I don't really get conceptual art." And so...
That's great. That's great. Was he being intentionally funny?
No.
Wow.
And so I attempted to impress upon him that wasn't the stated aim of it, but we're going to pull the old switcheroo now.
Okay.
And in keeping with one of Josh's original concepts for this series, we're going to present a series of poetry readings while we drive to Britain.
Readings and analyses. Yes, we're taking these potatoes from the Austrian border through Germany into England.
Yeah, we're taking potatoes through Germany, which is perilous, because you never know when you're going to be set upon by a pack of roaming house rats.
I just want to ask you to please independently confirm my memory that I started recording the audio, because we've been having trouble lately. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You remember that?
Yes, I do. Okay, and we're good to go.
That's our mnemonic, you see. We've been developing a series of codes to try to stop all of the fucking up that we all the time are doing always.
Yeah, sorry about the last episode.
Oh boy, if we ever even showed that to anybody, man, that
we haven't decided yet.
That
we probably will though, because
dire.
that's kind of our modus operandi.
Warts,
anyway,
warts and all. That's my motto.
As Isaac said, he wasn't joking. We are doing something a little different today. We're going to read these poems. They're by Daniil Kharms. They're from the Blue Notebook.
Yeah, selections from the boom.
He's a Russian absurdist. We're going to uncover what that means as we go. All right, so
that's exactly
the Blue Notebook, number 1. No, there's actually something before number 1. Read,
I know,
please.
but number 1 is super. Okay, yes.
I think you should start with the introduction.
We'll start with the introduction. For the scrapbook. I once saw a fly and a bedbug get into a fight. It was so frightening that I ran out into the street and ran as far as I could. The same thing goes for the scrapbook. Do some dirty thing, and then it's too late. August 23rd, 1936. Kharms.
Wow.
My opinion of traveling is succinct. When traveling, do not go too far, or else you might see something that will ever... Fuck.
You're reading number 1 now.
It
might be good to announce that.
You're right, and absolutely, we should probably stop to
Let's discuss that introduction. Let me give you a. Let me give you a.
Have
brief,
you thought this through, my friend?
Let me give you a brief outline of Daniil Kharms' career. He there are 2 things about his career. That's still going to pick up on the mic. He's stroking my licorice.
This licorice is astounding.
Yeah.
I wish you could all taste Josh's licorice.
Double salt black licorice. Go find some, y'all.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, as you were saying.
Here are the 2 things about Daniil Kharms' career. Number 1, he was writing in the run-up to World War II, the dawn of the Soviet Empire, and a collective called Oberiu, all of whom were somewhat stylistically similar to one another. And number 2, the Soviet government believed that he was writing codes in his poetry, or that it was in some other way somehow dissident, and they put him in prison where he died.
Yep, this is a common story for a lot of artists coming out of this particular place in this particular time.
So true.
Indeed.
Do we have anything to say about that introduction in particular? The scrapbook. I mean, the Blue Notebook itself must be the scrapbook.
Okay, that's the caliber of insights that we're going to do now. We've set ourselves a difficult task here, which is to try to analyze absurdist poetry.
Or at least react.
Exactly. My reaction to that is, yep.
Okay, let's hear number 1.
My opinion of traveling is succinct. When traveling, do not go too far, or else you might see something that will even be impossible to forget. And if anything settles in the memory too stubbornly, a person first starts to feel uneasy, and then it gets quite difficult to keep up the vivacity of the soul. So, this I think points to the inherent dangers of Euro Truck Simulator.
Oh my. Let me, what?
Or maybe it's the comfort of it, because it is literally impossible to go too far in this game.
Does anything in this game ever settle in your memory? I feel like it's all very slippery.
No. It's all like butter to me.
Yeah.
My own voice is more memorable to me than anything else.
So perhaps in that way, Euro Truck Simulator it's the perfect alternative to travel.
This is a terrible idea, Josh.
My phone is ringing. Did you take my phone out of my pocket?
Oh God.
Oh fuck it.
It's
I'm
so
gonna
sheer.
pause.
It's so sheer.
Give me that. This has got to be a wrong number. Excuse me, everybody. Hello. Oh, hi, Dad. Oh my God. Oh my God. It was my dad.
It was his dad. We had fun.
Yeah.
I ate one of those licorices. Those licorices are not to be trifled with.
It's true. Guys, you've got to try this licorice. It's like not even candy. It's anyway. While we were gone, we made some modifications to the format of the episode.
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't want it to be all Kharms all the time. You know.
Fair enough.
Maybe some people here don't like Kharms.
I just thought there was a kind of delightful sequence to those poems, which deserves to be shared. But no,
I mean it's only
you're
three.
right.
It's only 3 pages long. I mean, I think if we were to, we would break up those. You know.
Yeah, fair enough. Oh, well, so what have you got now?
I've got The Intimate Sufferings of a Musician.
This is also by Kharms?
Also by Kharms. I think that it would be a good idea to, start out with some Kharms.
Let's hear
Basically, I've got this giant pile of poetry.
Yeah, we just pulled all the
right
poetry
here.
off my shelf, and he's gonna peruse at his whims.
At
his whimsy, I should say.
Yeah, we're gonna pick up some poems off the ground here. I'm gonna read one. Josh and I will discuss it.
Great.
You know,
if you don't like poetry,
you really oughtn't to be listening to this. I mean, words like oughtn't are going to come up.
Maybe we can make you like poetry.
Maybe you can, because of my sonorous delivery, probably. Starting with Kharms is probably actually not a bad idea, now that I think about it.
He's such a fun poet.
Yes.
He's straight up funny a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so let's go.
They called me a cruel monster, and isn't that the case? No, it's not the case, but I won't offer any proof. I heard my wife talking into the telephone receiver, telling some Mikushia that I was dumb. At the time I was sitting under the bed and could not be seen. Oh! What suffering I experienced in that moment. I wanted to jump out and shout, no, I'm not dumb. I can imagine just what would have happened then. Again, I was sitting under the bed and was not visible. But I sure could see what that same Mikusia was doing with my wife. Today my wife received this Mikusia again. I'm beginning to think that in my wife's eyes I'm receding into the background. Mikusia even searched around in the drawers of my writing desk. I myself sat under the bed and was not to be seen. I was sitting under the bed again and was not visible. My wife and Mikusia were talking about me in the most unpleasant tones. I couldn't take it any longer and shouted to them that they were lying. It's already the 5th day after I was beaten up, but my bones still whimper.
Oh no.
DKH.
DKH. What my favorite thing about that poem, obviously, based on God, no.
Life is suffering.
The autobahns are so dangerous.
Fun.
I truly enjoyed how he kept describing how he was under the bed and not to be seen, as though he had never brought that up before.
Yes, indeed. We were definitely zoning in on the humor in here.
Yes, that was a subtle, a subtle.
It's the humor.
tool.
It's the humor of repetition. You know.
Yes,
That's right in this. Let me read you this poem, because this also features the humor of repetition. This poem is called Knock, and it is in the form of a play. Summer, a writing desk, a door to the right, a picture on the wall. A horse is drawn on the picture, and in the horse's mouth, a gypsy. Olga Petrovna is splitting wood. Every time she strikes the wood, the pince-nez falls from Olga Petrovna's nose. Evdokim Osipovich sits in an armchair smoking. Olga Petrovna drives the wood splitter into the log, which, however, doesn't split a bit. Evdokim Osipovich, knock! Olga Petrovna, putting on her pince-nez, strikes the log. Evdokim Osipovich, knock! Olga Petrovna, putting on her pince-nez, strikes the log. Evdokim Osipovich, knock! Olga Petrovna, putting on her pince-nez, strikes the log. Evdokim Osipovich, knock! Olga Petrovna, putting on her pince-nez. Evdokim Osipovich, I beg you, do not utter the word knock! Evdokim Osipovich, okay. Olga Petrovna strikes the log with the splitter. Evdokim Osipovich, knock! Olga Petrovna, putting on her pince-nez. Evdokim Osipovich, you promised me you wouldn't say that knock word. Evdokim Osipovich. Okay, Olga Petrovna, I won't do it again. Olga Petrovna strikes the log with the splitter. Evdokim Osipovich. Knock! Olga Petrovna, putting on her pince nez. This is preposterous, a grown elderly man who doesn't understand a simple human request. Evdokim Osipovich. Olga Petrovna, you can continue your work without worry. I will no longer hinder you. Olga Petrovna. Evdokim Osipovich, I'm begging you, I'm really begging you. Let me at least split this one log. Evdokim Osipovich. Of course, go right ahead, split away. Olga Petrovna strikes the log with the splitter. Evdokim Osipovich. Knock! Olga Petrovna drops the wood splitter and opens her mouth but is unable to say a word. Evdokim Osipovich gets up from his armchair, gives Olga Petrovna a once-over, and slowly exits. Olga Petrovna stands motionless with her mouth open, looking at Evdokim Osipovich as he moves into the distance. The curtain descends slowly. Alright, so I think that we're beginning to penetrate what's brilliant about Daniel Kharms here, yeah?
Yeah.
How would you describe exactly what's brilliant about that little piece?
Well, as you say, it ran with the humor of repetition, but added a second form of humor, which was genre-savvy characters.
Not a new thing, it turns out.
No.
Expand on what you mean by that a little bit.
Well, I suppose the moment we really started breaching new territory, was when Olga Petrovna observed that the situation was preposterous and explained why, which, of course, was clear to the audience. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I suppose my question about Kharm has always been, this is very funny, and I love it. But is it necessary for it to do anything besides that, to be poetry?
So is the humor the essential element of it? Is that the question?
Is slapstick humor sufficient for something to be poetry? Is there even something else going on with Kharms?
Oh yes, no, there's absolutely something else going on. I mean, because all of these poems are about futility,
yes.
And they're about despair and about being stuck in your role. And it's Soviet Russia, right?
Yes.
But, like, I think that a reading of it, which is that programmatic, and it was like, okay, this is about X, Y, and Z, diminishes it.
Yes.
I think that
it's more derived from it.
The humor is essential, but is not sufficient in and of itself.
Yes.
And neither is the sort of thematic underpinning of it essential.
Mm.
I mean, sufficient in and of itself.
True.
You gotta get both. That's what gives it that savor.
Yeah, okay. All right. You got another?
I think I do have another one.
I have a favorite, but I don't think I'll be able to find it while I'm driving a truck.
It's cool, it's
So
cool.
you could take the wheel.
Here's a favorite. Yeah, no.
Okay.
Oh, Jesus, that would just be asking for disaster. An optical illusion. Semyon Semyonovich, having put on his spectacles, looks at a pine tree, and this is what he sees. In the pine tree sits a man showing him his fist. Semyon Semyonovich, taking off his spectacles, looks at the pine and sees that no one is sitting in the tree. Semyon Semyonovich, putting on his spectacles, looks at the pine tree, and again he sees that a man is sitting in the tree, showing him his fist. Semyon Semyonovich, taking off his spectacles, again sees that there is no one sitting in the pine tree. Semyon Semyonovich, putting his spectacles on again, looks at the pine tree, and, as previously, he sees that in the pine tree sits a man showing him his fist. Semyon Semyonovich does not wish to believe this phenomenon, and deems this phenomenon an optical illusion. So, less funny, more pointed, that one.
Yes.
But it still has the same heft of art, right?
So true. My favorite is the one about things flying away. I think it might be in the Blue Notebook.
Things flying away. All right, I'll check it. The first play that my theater company ever did was based on poems from this book.
It was fun. You guys did a production which I felt was true to the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
You were all clowning around, but you were also all upset with your Latin life.
We were so upset.
I remember you falling repetitiously to my feet.
Oh yeah, I absolutely did. I was pretending to be an old woman.
Yes. The entire cast kind of ran in a wildly way towards the audience and fell flat on their faces. I believe there was it looks like it's not in the Blue Notebook, huh?
No.
I believe there was a narrator explaining exactly what was happening as I watched it happen as well.
Yeah.
If you can't find it, just read something else.
I will. I absolutely will.
Do you think that Euro Truck Simulator 2 is an absurdist poem?
No, I think it's a Euro Truck Simulator.
Do you think we can read Euro Truck Simulator 2 as an absurdist poem?
I think we can probably read what we're doing now as an absurdist poem.
This is true.
But a pretty lazy one.
House fire. All roads lead to house fire.
Lovely house fire. Gonna do one more of these, and then we're gonna move on to another one.
Very good. Patience, please. we have to locate the perfect poem.
Absolutely.
That's a prose poem.
Yeah, that's a good one too, but I'm not gonna do it.
Maybe Daniil Kharms is like a windmill. Okay, we got dead air, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, shut up. Here we go. Here's the one that we did.
Okay. Oh, and yes, the tumbling old woman.
Yeah, I've acted this play out.
Very good.
And I'd like you to imagine me, my brother, and our two pals falling over repeatedly as somebody reads this poem out.
I just want to point out that the shadows of the windmill were casting across the road just now, and it was pretty cool.
You know what? I can't really get into the Euro Truck experience if I'm looking up all these poems.
Okay,
this is a flawed thing that we're doing.
Let's go.
Much like an absurdist poem, like tumbling old women. Because of her excessive curiosity, one old woman tumbled out of her window, fell, and shattered to pieces. Another old woman leaned out to look at the one who chattered, but out of excessive curiosity, also tumbled out her window, fell, and shattered to pieces. Then a third old woman tumbled from her window, and a fourth, and a fifth. When the sixth old woman tumbled out of her window, I got sick of watching them, and walked over to the Maltsev market, where, they say, a blind man had been given a knit shawl.
Lovely.
Gotta love it. And the circumstances of it imbue the poem with a certain je ne sais quoi, right?
Yes.
I mean, the man having died for his work, lets you read these things with a little bit more,
gravitas.
A little more gravitas, a little more certainty that that they're decent pieces of work than you might otherwise have.
Right. He refused to stop writing them, is the thing.
Absolutely. These were important enough to him that he gave up his freedom and ultimately his life. These little confections.
It's easy to make him a bit of a hero.
Absolutely. Which makes this an interesting piece to go to afterwards. We discussed this in the last video, assuming that you ever saw the last video that we did.
Which is this?
This is from a book called Doubled Flowering from the notebooks of Araki Yasasada.
I'm fully unfamiliar with this.
Well, Araki Yasasada was a survivor of Hiroshima who ended up writing these beautiful lyrical poems.
Yes, I do remember you bringing this up.
Absolutely.
He's not the one who turned out to be a fake survivor of Hiroshima.
Oh, yes, he was.
Okay.
But the reviews were all in before
that was revealed.
Mm-hmm.
So is this his real name, or is this the name of his character?
He never existed.
Okay, so this Shaka.
His name is Araki Yasasada.
Yasasada.
These poems were presented to the world as translations of hitherto unknown poems by a survivor of the atomic bomb, and they were received with rapturous praise.
Yasasada is not the name of the character, but the real author.
No, the name of the real author is, as yet, Kent Johnson,
okay.
I believe.
Okay. Wow, so is the real author even Japanese?
No.
Wow, okay. Well, let's hear it.
Yeah. The real author is, in fact, potentially one of a number of authors. The actual authorship of this is unknown.
What I'm finding interesting right now is that this book appears to... Was this book published before the lie was revealed?
No, it was published after the lie was revealed.
But it appears to be packaged as though it's completely legit.
Absolutely.
How interesting.
Although there's an afterword, which is In Search of the Authentic Other, the poetry of Araki Yasasada.
So
yes, they were presented, but with an introduction by translators who were also supposed to be Japanese, and none of whom existed either.
This is a curious artifact.
It is a curious artifact.
I suppose this means this fake Japanese man has his fans still. Anyway, I would like to hear one of these poems.
But let's see here.
The raindrops are falling on my truck.
But that doesn't mean that I will soon be
giving
of luck.
Either one.
Nothing gets me down.
Why not just read the intro poem, the first one?
The very first poem in this collection. Let's see here. High altitude photo of Hiroshima circa 1944. March 7th, 1957. I dedicate this poem to the great artist Piet Mondrian. There must be a schoolgirl deep inside there, stuttering, almost weeping, to remember the main cities of our allied Germany. There must be a monk, self-absorbed, slowly dragging his rake through sand around a moss-covered stone. A man beside his home has thrown a little boy into the air. The child is there, falling, his mouth open with joy. And I? Where am I? For being here is confusing, makes my position less clear. Somewhere in the upper left, I suppose, hurrying ambitiously to get somewhere. I shut my eyes, try to recall those days. Outside of me, the photograph is beautiful and clear, a long, single pulse of geometry under dreams. Pure hieroglyph, into which I also will vanish.
So, as someone passingly familiar with Japanese,
Yes?
would you say that this sounds like it was derived from Japanese?
Here's a haiku.
Okay.
Penis withered, I follow a begging bowl into hailstones.
Speeding, but I'm turning the other ball. Oh God, no! This episode is a catastrophe.
You think so?
Well,
Is it a complete catastrophe, or are you just not able to poem and drive at the same time?
I'm not. It's hard to poem and drive at the same time. Why don't you tell us about your thoughts on this poem? You are more familiar than I.
I don't think that this was that was the best poem of the bunch. The more interesting poems in here are the ones that are not explicitly about Hiroshima, and the best poems in here are the ones that are not explicitly about Hiroshima.
Okay, well, have you been able to find a good one?
Yeah, how about this one? Utterances and Hepatica. And then he said, there is a language and I make it. And then he replied, don't take the ancient engraving so solemnly. And then he said, I want to crawl away and hide in the thought to which I am leading. To which she inquired, why are you so certain about the utterances of the Tokyo people? And then she read, Kikuyu is a very sad case. She made a bad marriage and she came here afterwards. And then she screamed, if a man had a tough hairy hide, his world would be different indeed. Which is when he threw her bath utensils randomly to the tile. Which is when he imagined her body as the portal of the valley. Which is when she touched herself in sorrow amidst Hepatica, which shall be the queen of all flowers. So this was written in the egg-laying season of the moths. So in such a time their body is swollen beyond all proportion to their wings, which was when someone lifted her solemnly towards the clouds, which was when the radius of the area was reproduced by a large number of times, which was on a day the suitor was bearing a large bouquet of Hepatica, which shall be the queen of all flowers.
I suppose that seems good. I don't know.
You don't think so?
It's not grabbing me immediately, shall we say.
Oh, I see.
It seems perhaps overly concerned with a kind of florid loveliness, which
a florid loveliness which might be questionable
yes,
if the source was revealed to be inauthentic.
If I'm
Is it because that sort of florid loveliness has to be earned, or is it just because that's not something that you dig in poetry?
I don't tend to dig it in poetry. I think even if I did believe that this person was a survivor of Hiroshima, I might judge them less harshly for their florid poetry. I might see why that is something they would choose to write, and why it might be a sincere expression of their experiences. But I would probably remain uninterested. Not that I want to completely dismiss the possibility that I would ever find that interesting. I mean, I've only heard 2 or 3 poems. But I suppose my first impression isn't that excited.
Let's move on to something that's genuinely decent then, shall we?
Okay. You wouldn't call that genuinely decent?
Well, not by your lights and marks.
I mean, if you disagree with my appraisal of it, I'm interested to hear.
I find it very pleasant, aesthetically speaking, in a tactile way, which tends to be the level on which I respond to poetry.
Fair enough.
It's like it was interesting to me that the idea of jumping off from Kharms work was in terms of just the solidity of objects, and you're like, well, let's talk about grandmas, let's talk about fences and teeth and faces, you know.
Yeah.
But you like E. Cummings, right?
I do like E. Cummings. I don't always know how to read them, but the ones I've read and been able to figure out, I really love. Can you find As Freedom as a Breakfast Food in there?
I hope I can, because that's one of my favorites.
It's a little tough, though, because this is a book of everything he's ever done.
Oh, yeah, I know. We probably should have prepped for this. We probably should have done a little bit of work.
We probably should have. But I think at this point, being slapdash is all part of our charm, don't you?
I certainly hope so. My charm is a slapdash as fuck. What is the thing with poetry books that don't have fucking indexes?
It doesn't have index. You're reading it.
This is a fucking table of contents. It's not the same thing as an index.
True enough, yes. That's all chronological, though. I believe it should be in the latter third of the thing.
Yeah, I'm still working on it.
Okay.
Give me a second.
More thoughts on... I don't know, guys. What did you think? Leave in the comments what you thought of that not Japanese poetry.
You should tell us what you think about that non-Japanese poetry.
Do you think it's racist to pretend to be a Japanese poet?
You know what? I think that there is absolutely a racist element in that. Absolutely a racist element in that. But is it good poetry?
Possibly.
Yeah, it's like, if we can't even agree that the poetry is good enough to justify the conceit, then we're not going to be able to get much out of the...
I will certainly say that it seemed skillful.
Yes, but is skill sufficient?
I mean, okay, I think it is worth having a conversation about whether... let's just assume that I think the poetry is really good, right? Let's just
okay, we're gonna bracket out. Okay, let's take it as read that this poetry is good.
Yes, like that they're all really lovely and inescapably beautiful.
Here, I'm gonna do another one real quick.
Okay.
We're going to choose at random. This one is lovely and inescapably beautiful. Whoop, this one's a letter. The other thing about this is that it has a nice rhythm to it because it's like a collection of scraps, fragments, letters, ephemera. Fictionalized ephemera, right? Unfinished work. Here, check it out. Her kisses tasted of blood or well water flecked with rust.
Sorry, what with rust?
Well water.
Flecked with rust.
Yeah, well water flecked with rust, right? She folded her rose of the snow kimono over the corner of the futon. So you think she knew your suffering in advance? Not knew, but represented it. What do you mean? The right to private violence? In her company, the world was no more than the splashing water of her voice. Do you rise like the sun over an automobile graveyard? I wake from dreams worn out and dull as a horse. Do you free yourself from the obligations of fidelity? Her clinging dress always made me shiver. What did she show you had not already seen? The swing face of her walk was highly derived. You bet on a ghost, knowing you would lose? On the upstroke, her clavicles folded in like a jackknife. If not in clear, distinct ideas, in what did you believe? We were hurtling through a transparent mirror. What did she see in the fullness of your lips? The heart-shaped impression of her clitoris.
Okay, I don't like it.
He doesn't like it, ladies and gentlemen.
But I do want to discuss its value, because I'm sure someone likes it.
Yeah, no, clearly a whole lot of people liked it.
Right. It's absolutely fascinating.
The opening of this book...
that they collected it in this way.
The opening of this book is full of puff pieces.
Huh. I assume those puff pieces are doing this thing where they treat the persona as an extension of the poetry and all this nonsense.
Some of it.
Oh my god, I should have stopped at that stop. I will probably survive.
But yes, no, the whole book was about the tension and contradiction and the whole fraud of it. You know?
Right. I mean, I guess the question is it valid to treat a persona as an extension of the poetry? That's what Pessoa does, but none of his alter egos through which he writes poetry are fraudulent, and all of them are the same race as him.
Yeah, I suppose therein lies the problem, right?
Right.
I mean, the nameless author of this piece was, I think, trying to make a point about the way that we view things that are other, by essentially like putting on the mask of the other, so that. But the point that he was trying to make, I think, was that we tend to invest it with a certain beauty exotic beauty that comes in its foreignness.
Yeah, I suppose I was going to say that I felt that there was a certain unfortunate sense of exactly that in those poems, but maybe that's actually more intentional than I was about to give it credit for.
No, it's absolutely intentional. I think that, but we would say that it's talking about exoticism. It's talking about being exoticized.
Right. You still haven't found us reading.
I still haven't found us reading.
Is that actually its title?
It's the first line, and I think most of these poems are the.
Yeah.
The first line is the. I could definitely
Just recite it from memory. As freedom is a breakfast food
and something. Blah, 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 blah.
Jesus, should we just pause so we can find it?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, BRB. Here, we found it.
Hey, we found it.
Okay.
Let's since we have this, and I'm not struggling to find a particular Cummings poem in a book that has all of his poems in it. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about this incredibly complicated thing and potentially problematic thing that we kind of glossed over.
Yeah, I think that there's more to talk about there.
Absolutely. It's clear that it's not as good as Kharms, you know?
Yes.
It's prettier than Kharms. It's more considered.
I like how to illustrate that you picked up the wrong book and waved it in the air. You picked up John
They
Ashbery.
wouldn't have known if you hadn't said that.
I wanted them to know.
I in fact picked up both John Ashbery and
Bernadette Meyer.
Just to prove my point.
Yes. Okay.
But anyway, I feel like that there is a lot, I feel like the thing that interests me about that is whether the poetry is still good, and you think it isn't, which I am cool with.
I don't necessarily think it's not good, but I know that I don't like it.
Right. I don't know what it is, but I know that I don't like it. The document really has to be experienced as a whole. The document fascinates me. I will.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's amazing to me that the publishing world hasn't just sworn it off. Then again, the publishing world is no stranger to racism.
And the whole thing is goddamn interesting,
Yeah.
Also, this is not put out by Farrar, Straus, and Guru,
Right,
This is some little New York thing. I found this used on Amazon. It was the last copy they had.
Got it.
I don't even remember how I found out about it in the first place, frankly.
I'm guessing someone with knowledge of interesting things alerted you to it.
Okay, so... But anyway, the segue that we're going to make into the Cummings poem is that the pleasure of that stuff, even beyond the kind of honkety-tonk bullshit of the rigmarole that pushed it into the public eye and then shut it out again. Mm. And by the public eye, of course, we mean the world of poetry, which is in itself a tiny circumscribed little bitty pie, was the sort of tactile poetry, Jesus Christ, the tactile pleasure of the words themselves.
Mm.
How damaged is our cargo at this point?
Fairly. It looks like I have to reverse into this parking lot too, so that's making me a little nervous.
Well, you do that, and I'm going to read poetry to you to help.
Yes.
But this is exactly what I like about Cummings, and particularly this kind of stuff about Cummings, because this one is
6% and 4%.
Iambic as hell, right? Cummings is, of course. Let's talk a little bit about Cummings. We shouldn't assume that people are familiar with him. Dude is he's a First World War veteran. Spent his time in the.
I'm not actually familiar with his biography, so I am interested to hear this.
He spent a fair amount of World War I in a prisoner of war camp in France. Which experience he wrote about in a book called The Enormous Room, which a band that I was in was briefly named after.
I've decided to do this like an idiot, by the way.
Okay, cool, that's fine. You just keep working on it.
Yep.
While I talk off the top of my head once again and scrape together my poor remembrances about E. Cummings.
Okay.
But what the dude is most famous for is basically being one of those dudes who was really who knew the formal elements of poetry back to front, but abandoned them.
Yes.
Or continued to subvert them. He's the guy who's mostly responsible for those poems that you see that are just random splatterings of punctuation and letters across a blank page. How the idea of how the spacing of the letters on the page can reflect oh God, that's gorgeous.
Isn't it gorgeous?
I could write a poem about it.
A poem about the digital landscapes of Euro Truck Simulator is something I'd be genuinely interested in reading.
I'll write it.
Please do.
I'll write it. We can use it as the tag in the doobly-doo.
Oh, yes. Good old doobly-doo.
But anyway, so he's a dude who is most known for really stretching and flattening out and calling a thing a sonnet when it's just a really weird lump of words, and also doing a lot of real sort of guttural naturalistic stuff. He did a lot of dialect poems in dialect, poems that were filthy, You know,
Yeah.
he was a
His first bunch
He
of
was-
poems are all just these like fairly traditional like love poems, which I actually really like.
yeah, no,
He was a master.
he's not, well, that's the thing, like, he's an avant-garde motherfucker, and it's the difficulty with being an avant-garde motherfucker is that you have to know all the rules before you break them. That's one of the
Right.
oldest rules
Right.
of the game, and then people, you know, saw his work and then just skipped right to the part where he was, you know,
Yeah,
being
being crazy.
This
So-
is an interesting sort of halfway point here, because this is a later period poem, but it's not something where he's doing the thing he's famous for. All of these are in a line, and they're grouped into stanzas,
Mm-hmm.
and it's iambic pentameter.
I never noticed it was iambic pentameter.
As free than
You're
is a breakfast food. Oh, it's actually an iambic tetrameter. I'm mistaken.
Yes.
It's iambic
It's
tetrameter.
definitely iambic one way or the other.
Mhm.
I never goddamn noticed that. I just thought this sounds really pretty to read, but no, that's because it's iambic.
Yeah.
All right,
So,
well,
like,
let's
he's
go.
pulling that out of his old bag of tricks. By the way, guys, since we keep assuming that you all know what we're talking about, and I am.
You did kind of just demonstrate. Oh fuck! You did
Yeah.
just kind of demonstrate what iams are.
I am what I am. Anyway, yeah. Poetry is made of feet.
Poetry is made of feet.
Yeah, those things are called iambs and trochees, and spondees are called feet.
Oh yeah, I
They're
learned that one.
the metric unit of
Why
a
am I
poem.
going so slowly?
And
Oh, that's why.
classical English language poetry all has this rhythmic, are made of these little rhythmic areas, and iamb is, as the word iamb itself is ba-bum, you know?
Yes.
So this poetry is full of ba-bum, 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 ba-bum.
Remember what the opposite of an iamb is?
It's a trochee.
Ah, yes.
Or trochee, I suppose. Or, no, it's a trochee. It's a trochee because
Trochee
it goes
is an iamb.
opposite of it.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, you know.
Well, let's hear the poem.
Right. Ahem. As freedom is a breakfast food, or truth can live with right and wrong, or molehills are from mountains made, long enough and just so long will being pay the rent of seam, and genius please the talent gang, and water most encourage flame. As hat racks into peach trees grow, or hopes dance best on bald men's hair, and every finger is a toe, and any courage is a fear, long enough and just so long. Will the impure think all things pure, and hornets wail by children stung? Or as the seeing are the blind, and robins never welcome spring, nor flat folk prove their world is round, nor dingsters die at break of dawn, and commons rare and millstones float, long enough and just so long. Tomorrow will not be too late. Worms are the words, but joy's the voice. Down shall go which, and up come who. Breasts will be breasts, thighs will be thighs. Deeds cannot dream what dreams can do. Time is a tree, this life one leaf, but love is the sky, and I am for you, just so long and long enough.
Interesting. Yes. I was engaging largely with your reading of that because I'm very familiar with the poem, and I have read it a number of times myself, and my style of reading it is rather different. Would you like... How about I give it a shot?
Yeah, do it. I'll try to steer.
Okay, here. This is go, this is stop, this is shift up, this is shift down.
Oh,
I got
Jesus.
that backwards.
Oh, Jesus, okay.
Don't move that stick. Oh my god.
What's going on?
Oh my God.
Oh, I see. All right. We're good. Oh, okay. All right. I should probably hit the go button. This is the go button, right? Well, we appear to be going. Okay.
No, you're not.
Oh, shit. This is the go button.
What button are you pressing?
This left shoulder button.
Maybe you're just not in the right gear.
Oh, okay. How do I change gear?
Oh, that's how you change gears. These two buttons shift gears up and down. Okay, we're good. You're gonna get your bearings.
Oh, I see what I'm doing.
Yes.
I've just been shifting gears.
By the way, use the right stick to center your view. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh, wait.
You've like never held a modern controller. I just realized.
I have to. I do it all the time. No, I got it now.
Okay.
Now. We're good.
You gotta shift up.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
We're all good. It's all good.
Shifting a little late, but that's okay. Okay, I'm gonna read this poem now. As freedom is a breakfast food, or truth can live with right and wrong, or molehills are from mountains made, long enough and just so long, will being pay the rent of seam, and genius please the talent gang, and water most encourage flame. As hat racks into peach trees grow, or hopes dance best on bald men's hair, and every finger is a toe, and any courage is a fear, just so long, just long enough and just so long. Will the impure think all things pure, and hornets wail by children stung? Or as the seeing are the blind, and robins never welcome spring, nor flat folk prove their world is round, nor dingsters die at break of dawn, and commons rare and millstones float, long enough and just so long, tomorrow will not be too late. Worms are the words, but joy's the voice, down shall go which and up come who. Breasts will be breasts, thighs will be thighs, deeds cannot dream what dreams can do. Time is a tree, this life one leaf, but love is the sky, and I am for you, just so long and long enough. What do you think of my reading?
I think that your reading is probably more comprehensible.
It's you have to really fight against yourself to read this poem too fast, I find.
I think that
you also resisted that urge.
Yeah,
but
you got well. I mean, you got to savor it.
Yeah,
that's what the love of the language is.
But it trips off the tongue so well. Aside from the See, I have a really hard. Yeah, okay, go ahead. I figured it out eventually. 20% damage, engine failure. Oh my god, really?
No.
Okay.
No, I was just kidding.
Okay.
Now, see, I have a real. It's a real interesting thing. It's like, and I think this speaks more to like what you like in poetry versus what I like in poetry.
I think that's true.
Poetry can be just complete errant nonsense to me, and if it is like well wrought enough in terms of both the interiority of the words, the way that the words jibe with one another, then I don't care if it is complete nonsense.
Right.
And of course, this poem's interesting because it's intentionally complete nonsense.
Right.
The point is, well, essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the point of it is essentially that, this thing that we're trying to do together is impossible, but it will be enough. It will make it work enough.
The point of like the words in the poem?
Yeah, what the poem is actually saying. It's like he presents a series of counterfactual statements, and then he's like, but all of these things can be true for long enough.
Yes.
And as my love for you, despite the fact that it is absurd, can be true for long enough, and just so long.
Yeah. I've never thought about it on that level.
Whoa! What? How? Where? On what level are you enjoying this then?
The same level as you, just the sound of the words.
Cool. But that I didn't feel like that's what your reading brought out.
What you're honing in on is that I do let the words in the sentences kind of inform my intonation, right?
Right.
Yeah, I do that, and I do that intentionally, but just because I do that doesn't mean that the meaning of the sentences is what I'm engaging with, right? I just think it's aurally and tonally pleasurable to have it almost sound like sentences at bits.
Yeah,
I think that's a cool trick the poem plays. Is kind of it is nonsense, but it's not gibberish.
Right. No, you're definitely bringing it across. I think it might be useful to
read some Keats?
Just to read like what this is taking off from, essentially. Okay. The sort of original bedrenched iambic love sonnet dude, who was at the peak of what this form was when this form was like a form that everybody was really engaged in.
Yes.
Even by the time of Cummings, I think that like the same thing that was happening to classical music was happening to poetry. Essentially, it was that it was becoming increasingly esoteric, and then sort of flew out the window.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to read the whole Ode to a Nightingale. Because that would be ridiculous.
You could read one stanza of it. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to give it as much like sway as I gave the Cummings film sway. But the thing about Cummings is that he's actually better at this than Keats is.
Yeah,
he's better at the sway and pitch of the words than Keats is.
Cummings is better than almost everybody.
Because Keats is trying to communicate something that's a little more complicated.
Right, and that's yeah. I mean, it's wonderful when you can manage to do both, but
and
there are compromises which have to be made.
Absolutely. So let's do a little bit of Ode to a Nightingale here. Maybe we can both read this one too.
Okay.
My heart aches, and a drowsy numbness pains my sense, as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains 1 minute past, and Lethe words had sunk. 'Tis not through envy of thy happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness, that thou, light-winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot of beechen green and shadows numberless, singest of summer in full-throated ease. Yeah.
Okay, I want to read that so I can wrap my head around it a little better.
All right, here
you go. Don't break the speed limit. Don't crash into that van.
Fuck. Okay, we're all good.
You're indicating right. Just hit right on the D-pad to stop doing that.
Okay, what did I do?
Now you're indicating left. Now you're indicating right. Now you're indicating left. Now you're indicating right. Okay.
I'm hitting left. Okay, I see. I see.
You
what
don't
the deal
use
is.
those to steer. You might have activated your. Oh my god! Why are you stopping?
Because I'm doing gear shifting. Pray continue, my friend.
Okay, so I've never read this poem before, so this might be a little bit faulty, but I'm going to give it my best shot.
Do it.
My heart aches, and a drowsy numbness pains. My sense as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. 1 minute passed, and I don't even know that word, unfortunately. Leaf words.
That's that. Incidentally, guys, that's the river in hell, the Letha.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit on me!
Holy shit! And you're still accelerating.
Stop.
There's no way anyone's listening to me read this poem while this is going on. Okay. This is complicated in terms of...
Anyway, the Letha is the river in hell where you that you are dipped in, and so you forget everything.
Yeah.
That's the deal.
This poem is complicated just in terms of how these lines lead into one another and form a paragraph. This is a paragraph.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And that's sort of part of the mastery of it, right?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a sense of the relationship between the lines, so my reading's going to suck.
I think that's okay.
Okay.
Do it. I'm going to try not to hit anything.
Okay.
I think that I may have missed my exit.
You did, yes.
Shit.
You can probably make a shitty, stupid, illegal U-turn at that junction coming up.
I probably shouldn't do that.
Well, then at least look at the map to figure out what the best route to take is, because the GPS in this game only says to go backwards.
Where did we get off the track?
Make a right and then make the next left. Oh, we're meant to take the...
Oh, the ferry.
Yes.
We fucked up and didn't take the ferry.
Okay. But yeah, take that. You take those turns I've described.
All right.
Do you remember what they were?
I think so.
Okay, yeah. The right and then the left. Okay, here goes. My heart aches, and a drowsy numbness pains. My sense as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains. 1 minute passed, and Letha words had sunk. 'Tis not through envy of thy happy lot, but being too happy in thine happiness, that thou, light-winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot of beech and green and shadows numberless, singest of summer in full-throated ease.
All right. So clearly, it doesn't sing as easily as the Cummings poem does.
No, it sings pretty well.
Partially that's because it's using language that is old as balls, comparative to us. You want to give the next verse a shot, just for shits and giggles?
Sure, why not? You just... This is great. You know, when we're doing a boring episode, we should have you drive. Okay.
You're saying this isn't a boring episode?
I'm saying it's good that you're driving because this is a boring episode. Okay. I mean, this is just us nerding out over poetry. Like,
I'm sure somebody out there is loving this.
Yeah. Okay.
Maybe only one person, but we love you, whoever
Thanks
you are.
for listening.
Yeah.
Oh, for a drought of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the deep
That's draft. That's draft. Sorry, go ahead.
What's draft?
Draft of vintage.
Oh, drought. What did I say?
You said drought.
Yeah, it's draft.
Draft.
It's spelled
It's
drought.
giraffe.
It's spelled drought.
Go for it.
Oh, for a draft of vintage. That makes more sense.
Yep.
Oh, for a draft of vintage that have been cooled a long age in the deep... God.
Alright.
I'm reading Keats to some pandemonium. I'm gonna play death metal.
Shut up!
Okay. I'm gonna read those two lines one more time. Oh, for a draft of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth, tasting of flora and the country green, dance and provincial song, and sunburnt mirth. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of true the blushful hippocrene,
I don't know.
hippocampus, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim, and purple-stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim. Oh, I like that one.
Yeah.
Can I borrow this?
Yeah, absolutely, dude. It was a buck. It's a Dover Thrift Edition. So I'm
driving now.
I'm gonna take a quick crack at that one as well.
Yeah.
So, oh, for a draft of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth. Now, see, that's interesting. Because he breaks the pattern there. It's like he's definitely not picky about his iams.
Hey, dude, my
versus
check
his-
engine light is on. I've never seen that before.
Oh, well, I definitely hit a lot of things. And I ran it at like 25 RPM.
We're not even like that damaged. Oh, that's probably why.
Yeah.
Okay.
I ran at 25 RPM in first gear for like a very, very long time.
Alright, read the poem. I won't interrupt.
Oh, for a draught of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the deep-delved earth, tasting of flora and the country green, dance and Provençal song and sunburnt mirth. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blushful Hippocrene, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim and purple-stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim.
I like
And
it.
it's hard. The rhythm doesn't come as easily, but it's so.
Stop,
It
stop.
It demands so much of your attention, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It hella demands your attention. Are we
Yeah.
almost done with this?
Yep.
I feel like we can go on forever.
I feel like we could too.
I feel like this is a good idea, and then we could probably.
It was certainly fun for us.
And then we could.
That's what
probably
really
do more
matters.
Interesting. Yeah. In the end, this is all just solipsistic wobble. All right. I'm sorry for this drift of poetry books in your bed.
I just want to pause one more time to find that Kharms poem I wanted to read, if you guys don't mind.
Yeah, not at all.
Excuse us, just a moment, everybody. We found it!
All right, we're gonna do this last Kharms poem as we pull into the knocking shop here.
Well, we've got a small ways to go. You'll probably be able to... Whatever. Read it.
We're heading to Edinburgh. To ring, to fly, third cisfinite logic.
I hit a car.
And now the house flew, and now the dog flew, and now the dream flew, and now the mother flew, and now the garden flew. The horse flew, the bathhouse flew, the balloon flew. Now the rock starts to flying, now the stump starts to flying, now the moment starts to flying, now the circle starts to flying. A house flies, a mother flies, a garden flies. A clock to fly, a hand to fly, eagles to fly, a spear to fly, and horse to fly, and house to fly, and period to fly. A forehead flies, a chest flies, a stomach flies. Oh no, catch it, the ear is flying. Oh no, look, the nose is flying. Oh no, my monks, the mouth is flying. 2. The house rings, the water rings, the rock nearby is ringing, the book nearby is ringing. Mother, son, and garden ring. A rings, B rings. That flies, and that rings. The forehead rings and flies. The chest rings and flies. Hey monks, mouth is ringing. Hey monks, forehead's flying. What to fly but not to ring? The ring is flying and to ring. There is flying and ringing. Hey monks, we're to fly. Hey monks, we're to flying. We're to fly and there to fly. Hey monks, we're to ringing. We're to ringing and there to ring. Spring 1930, translated by Matvei Yanfelovich.
What a wonderful poem.
Meaningful and stupid at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, the trick that Kharms tends to pull off.
Meaningful. Describe the meaning,
The meaning?
if you would.
Okay, so we got a bunch of flying things, we got a bunch of ringing things.
Yeah.
We got some monks.
Yeah.
What do we mean by monks? The monks are put in when we talk about the mouth flying away, which makes me think about vows of silence. And generally makes me think about the idea of being... I actually like more than usual in Kharms poems. I feel like I can do a reading of this one.
I'm very interested to hear it.
That the thing that he's bringing out with the allusion to a vow of silence is the sort of this monkish idea that you can be apart from the world and that you can forswear the world. But no, Kharms says it's all flying, it's all ringing.
Yes.
There's no way to escape from like the sensuous engagement of things because everything is flying. That flies, and that flies, and your face flies.
Interesting.
And your face rings. So it's all up in you. It's actually like an incredibly happy poem by Kharms standards.
That your reading did not sound happy. It sounded like the want is to escape.
Like my reading or my reading?
Your reading.
Help.
Your interpretation.
Did you get lost while I was reading that?
No.
Okay.
But I did bump into a few things.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, I think that only if that's interesting. I think that you immediately identify with the monks. I'm not sure if you're meant to.
I don't know. I mean, I guess when I read this poem, it felt it felt like everything, all of our responsibilities and all of the things which weigh us down are now gone, and the world is just flying carefree. That was my sense of it. That was more of an emotional sense than a conscious interpretation. I should say.
It's interesting. Yeah, no, I feel like that there's a certain sarcasm to Kharms that can never be escaped. That he's always a little bit angry. Yeah. No matter what's going on, and so even sort of an affirmation of life and freedom is a little bit angry and a little bit sarcastic.
I read the. Maybe you did too. I read the sense that it was bad, that everything was fine. That was what I read as sarcastic. The oh no, my monks.
Yeah, well, I think that's oh no, my monks. Guess what?
Oh, interesting.
It's flying. You think it's not flying, but it turns out it's
saw
flying.
It in a line with the kind of the mock despair that so many of his characters feel, where they're like it's all trivial nonsense that they're upset about, but they're very upset regardless.
Right.
I read it in the same tone as all of that.
You know what would have been best is if we had been carrying coals to Newcastle.
We're carrying potatoes. I mean...
Potatoes are also made of carbon.
Yeah.
That's a good sentiment to...
to go out
on. It's a shame that we're not quite...
Potatoes
we have to
are
park
also
first.
Made of carbon. That's the sentiment.
Yes, and freedom is a breakfast
I just want to
food.
share with you, audience...
And oranges are not the only fruit.
That when he said that, and when I said, yeah... I looked at him like, go on.
I thought you were agreeing with me. They are.
Oh, you thought that was a look of sincere agreement. No,
I thought
that was a look of
like
confused.
Touched with a little bit of like impressed, sort of, oh, well done, Isaac.
No, that was...
Maybe that's just how I see everything.
That was a confused request for elaboration.
Are you familiar with the expression carrying coals to Newcastle?
No.
If not, then I'm not going to bother. Instead, I'm going to read this Archie and Mehitabel poem while you try to park.
Sure. I hope this poem is, appropriately comedic and...
The Lesson of the Moth. I was talking to a moth the other evening. He was trying to break into an electric light bulb and fry himself on the wires. Why do you fellows pull this stunt? I asked him, because it is the conventional thing for moths, or why, if that had been an uncovered candle instead of an electric light bulb, you would now be a small unsightly cinder. Have you no sense? Plenty of it, he answered, but at times we get tired of using it. We get bored with the routine and crave beauty and excitement. Fire is beautiful, and we know that if we get too close it will kill us. But what does that matter? It is better to be happy for a moment and be burned up with beauty than to live a long time and be bored all the while. So we wad all our life up into one little roll, and then we shoot the roll, and that is what life is for. It is better to be part of beauty for 1 instant and then cease to exist than to exist forever and never be a part of beauty. Our attitude toward life is come easy, go easy. We are like human beings. Used to be before they became too civilized to enjoy themselves. And before I could argue with him out of his philosophy, he went and immolated himself on a patent cigar lighter. I do not agree with him myself. I would rather have half the happiness and twice the longevity. But at the same time, I wish there was something I wanted as badly as he wanted to fry himself.
Interesting. Keep going, I'm trying to park.
God damn it. Alright, random poem from random book. That was a good epigraph to go out on, I thought. No, this is long form. Can't do it. What's in this? No. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Here's another Cummings. Random Cummings.
Okay, fuck it. I can't park. We'll stick with your epigraph. Satisfactory! I've never gotten satisfactory before.
Yes, you have. I've been there. Speaking of love, of which who knows the meaning or how dreaming becomes. If your heart's mine, I guess a grass blade thinks beyond or around as poems are made. Are picking it. This caress, that laugh, both quickly signify life's only half. Through deep weather then or none, let's feel all. Mind in mind flesh, in flesh succeeding, disappear.
And from all of us at the BBC, good night and Merry Christmas.
And it's good night from me, and it's good night from him.
And it's good night from him.
And it's good night from me.